Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Bayou Bets. It is Thursday, January the 25th, 2024. We have a jam-packed show with breaking news, all kinds of stuff going on this afternoon. So we're going to get to it in just a moment. We remind you first that bet.nola.com is the source, your source for all the line moves, all the value plays right here. We ask you to subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. You can always find out when we're going live every Thursday, 4 o'clock. Datitude on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. I'm here with Thomas Casale. What is going on?
Not too much, Jim. How you doing?
Doing good. It's going crazy. We're going to get right to the breaking news. We've got two breaking news. One you probably already heard of. One you might not have heard of that just came down about 10 minutes ago all over the X. And there it is. The Atlanta Falcons could have hired one of just about anybody they wanted to, and somehow, some way, found a way to screw it up, Tom Casale. They hired a guy who's already failed instead of probably the greatest coach in NFL history, among others, including Mike Vrabel and others. They hire Raheem Morris.
Yeah, this was surprising to me. The Falcons, I had mentioned in the production meeting, I said I kind of liked what they were doing. They were interviewing everybody, right? If you have a head coaching vacancy, take your time, get people in there, get a couple of interviews. Now, while I like the process, I don't know if I like the end result here. This is, I don't know. I mean, maybe Belichick wanted too much power.
Right.
Who knows?
What about Vrabel?
Yeah, listen. There's a chance that Mike Vrabel and Bill Belichick don't coach this year.
This is a very decent chance.
Good, yeah. I mean, listen, Washington's already picked a GM. And if Belichick was going to go someplace with a GM, he would at least have to have say in it, right? Who he wants to work with. I don't see that being a fit. So, listen, Belichick's going to be 73 here in April. He's going to be 74 next year.
He might not get another shot.
This might be it. Yeah, this might be it. But the Falcons, I don't know. I thought they were there. They had a chance. There was some big names out there, some proven successful coaches. You can come in, you can change your culture, your organization. And I'm not saying Morris, maybe he gets a second chance. Maybe he's learned. But he certainly wasn't at the top of the list.
Didn't.
No, right.
We'll get to that and the comparisons in really just a minute. We ask you if you would like to comment in any form or fashion. Feel free to type it in, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on X or Facebook. You type in a comment. What do you think about the Raheem Morris hire? I've already had multiple texts from Saints fans, friends going, ha ha, they're thrilled. They're thrilled they hired Raheem Morris. And I mean, why wouldn't you be? We're going to talk to Spencer the Guru will join us in a little bit as well. Gabe Henderson is in the green room, but he's ill today. He's not going to come on the show. We have all kinds of things going on. We're going to talk about big bucks. Obviously, we're going to dissect the AFC and NFC championship games, and we're going to talk about the Saints and where they stand and hiring an offensive coordinator. That is coming down the pipeline. All these things, but not just Raheem Morris. Okay, we're going to get back to Raheem Morris. We're going to jump around a little bit here. We also had some other breaking news earlier today, and we were going to save this and kind of talk about it at the end of the show, but I think it's become kind of so big now, Tom. It's just breaking out everywhere that we really need to go to it, and it's the news about Kayshon Boutte and our own Wilson Alexander reporting as he gets a press release from Louisiana State Police, allegedly placed more than 8,900 bets with a fake account at his time at LSU. This lasted over the course of about 13 months. First of all, how do you make 8,900 bets in 13 months? And second of all, the part of this that I don't get is when he created his quote unquote fake account, I think it was Kayshon Boutte 01.
That's there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, the 8,900 bets, that's the exact opposite of me. I've been betting college basketball for 2 months straight, and tonight will be my 91st bet. I'm more of a selective gambler. I kind of pick my spot. So I don't think me and Boutte have the same recipe for making money. The one thing, though, Jim, is because, listen, I hate to feel like I'm talking down to people, but I've seen some comments on Twitter already. This is not any kind of point shaving scam, nothing like that, right? Like if you've watched documentaries on the Boston College or the Arizona State point shaving scandal, they were in with the wrong people. They were shaving points at the end of games. This is more just, whatever you think of it.
Dummy?
Yeah.
It's more dummy.
Right. Betting, listen, I joked in the production meeting. I said, geez, I know one thing. He dropped some passes in games I bet, but apparently he was betting on himself. So maybe
apparently he was. Some of these bets are at LSU. And I thank Gabe Henderson for sending me some of these tweets that we got the information. Here, according to the affidavit, Kayshon, and this is all alleged. We're not saying anyone's guilty. These are allegations brought forward by the Louisiana State Police. According to the affidavit, Kayshon Boutte wagered $450,969 on 1,520 bets in 2022. He won nearly $386,000 for a total loss of over $65,000 in 2022 alone. That's more than about 65 to 70% of the people who live in this country make. He lost gambling in a year. And then in 2023, I believe that's when he turned 21. So before he turned 21, illegal bets, allegedly wagered $186,000 and won $170,000, lost another $16,000. That was over the course of about a 4-month period. I mean, come on, man. First of all, I guess it's none of my business where you get the money, because that part of it doesn't matter. But you're talking about a college kid illegally making bets. That's one thing. But I think most college kids I know, if they were illegally betting, they'd be making bets of like $5, $6, $8, $2, playing these big old, single game parlays. I mean, we talk about, I don't know how he bets that much, makes that many bets. But, man, you got a problem if you're making that many bets, and even bigger one if you're in college and you lose $80,000 over the course of 13 months.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, there's a lot going on here. And even I know some people I saw say, what's the difference if he bets on himself?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he's in a game. Is he stressing too much trying to hit his over? I don't know. I'm not an athlete that played at that level. I'm just saying it's never going to be allowed to bet on yourself. They just don't want the look. It's a bad look. I mean, heck, half of the new generation already thinks the NFL's rigged. You know what I mean? So this doesn't help that kind of narrative when you see stuff like this.
But yet Pete Rose is still not in the Hall of Fame or reinstated in the Major League Baseball. What a hypocritical sports world we live in.
There's, to me, if you've ever, I'm infatuated by the whole Black Sox thing. So I've done a lot of reading and stuff on that. There is a massive difference of what happened in that World Series and what Pete Rose did. And I think lumping that all together is why, in all honesty, is bad for us, because people lump sports betting all together. Like it's changing now, but the back room, Jimmy the Greek wearing the tracksuit guys and fixing games, and I just think it's a bad look for sports betting. Pete Rose should 100% be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I got Billy the Nose and all that kind of crap. But look, I mean, and the last thing on Boutte here, part of, according to Wilson Alexander on X, part of the biggest problems, he bet on himself. Now, like Tom said, nothing of him betting against LSU or himself or anything like that. But he bet on himself. That's a huge, gigantic no-no, which may get him. He may never play football again. I mean, there's a more than legitimate chance he never plays football again after this. He bet on himself against Florida State as part of an 8-leg parlay, allegedly. And the transactions occurred within the LSU football ops. And from what we were hearing before, I think there was something along the lines of 13 bets that he made on LSU, all on LSU while he was playing for the Tigers. Again, underage. That may, 17, Gabe says, that may get hit, the fact that he did this as an underage, but you're still 20. It's not like he was 17. I just don't know if he can come out of this.
No, and listen, the guy's betting 8-leg parlays. At least give yourself a chance to win.
Yeah, well, that's a whole
I
different
mean,
story.
Jesus, the chance that he's hitting that all this trouble for an 8-leg
Yeah,
parlay, that
that's a
wasn't going to
whole
win no matter who you bet.
that's a whole different story. We tell people all the time. I try to tell my son, who knows it all. He's 25 and he knows everything there is to know. He keeps betting these long leg parlays, and you know what? He hits like 6 out of the 8 legs that he bets more often than not. And I'm like, if you just cut this down, stop being greedy, and cut it into 4, you'd probably win one like every other week or so. But no, we want to be greedy and keep betting these long parlays. It's like Gabe said, about Boutte. He got suspended before NIL for illegal signing sessions. So he was already in trouble. And Spencer, he'll come on a little bit and talk about it as well. Already a fringe player in the NFL, was a 6th-round draft pick. I think he only had like 3 receptions this season. Didn't play a whole bunch. They're going to have a new coaching staff coming in, and we'll see if Gerard Mayo likes Kayshon Boutte, but he's facing a suspension for sure. So we'll see how that goes. Again, before we get to the Saints, one last time, in case you are new to the show and didn't see this earlier, according to Tom Pelissero, Adam Schefter, and other people of this ilk, so this is true, the Falcons are expected to hire Raheem Morris. You know what? Let's compare it to the Saints coach. I mean, we're going to get into the Saints search for an offensive coordinator, but I hate to keep harping on Dennis Allen. I really do. I'm not just saying that I hate to keep harping on him, because I really do. But, this is kind of along those lines. The difference for the Saints is at least Dennis Allen was in-house and learned under Sean Payton, and they thought that they were going to try to go status quo as best as possible. The Falcons had literally their pick of the litter, except for Harbaugh. They probably could have hired whoever they wanted that was available and got whoever they wanted. But they chose a guy who's already failed, Tom. I don't understand this hire at all. I mean, everybody deserves a second chance, but when you're talking about where the Falcons are and where they have a chance to go, and you don't hire a Belichick or you don't hire a Vrabel or whatever, you hire a guy that's already failed once as a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, it's again, it came out just as we were getting ready for the show, and I had to double look, like I was that surprised, because you're thinking once Harbaugh signed with the Chargers, you're going to see Bill Belichick named Falcons head coach sometime today or tomorrow. So it was a pretty big shock, and I just would be interested to know why teams didn't go with Belichick. Yeah. Whatever your opinion is of him, that he won with Brady or he didn't win with Brady, the guy has won games in the NFL. The guy's good. He's going to make your defense better. He gives you a chance to win, whatever you think of him. So it'd be interesting to hear why they decided not to go that route.
Just going to throw this out there: if he doesn't coach this year, I know one team that allows their head coach to have a lot of authority, and at least Sean Payton had a lot of authority when he was here, and that's the New Orleans Saints. And I'm just throwing this out there. If he's sitting there on the market this time next year and this team is looking for a coach, it may only be a couple-year stopgap, but don't be shocked at all if that name pops up a year from now. Let's just say that. Gabe points out the Falcons were the only coach to interview Belichick. And again, I think you were spot on, Tom. I think that a big part of it is because that he wants authority. He's not going to listen to anyone. I mean, right. I'm doing it my way or I'm not doing it at all. And they probably said, okay, well, we can't make this work. So it is what it is. But
right. And just so everyone knows, I worked for the Patriots for a few years, and the structure there, it's unique, right? There's people in place, but Belichick really goes, he was the final decision maker. He did listen to people. I know, to be honest with you, the guy he listens to a lot, I don't know if it's still to this day, but when I was there, he used to go on Jimmy Johnson's boat before the draft and float ideas and listen to Jimmy Johnson. So there's certain people Belichick gets his information from and who he trusts. But what you said is 100% true. He's not going to walk in and let you pick the GM and pick this and pick that. It's just not going to happen. He'd rather not coach.
Yeah, and he's going to say, I want this person as my quarterback or this, and they're going to say, we don't think they can make that happen, and like, maybe this isn't a good fit. So I don't think any of us knew what happened behind the scenes, but look, again, even if you don't get Bill Belichick, fine and dandy. I mean, it's a matter of opinion, I get it, but even if you don't consider Mike Vrabel a great coach, there are got to be 3, 4, 5 other names that you could have picked. Meanwhile, the Panthers picked a new coach, and they picked the Buccaneers offensive coordinator. I don't know what the hell's going on in this division, but it just goes to show this might be the most dysfunctional division in the history of football.
Yeah, and we talked about this earlier. Like, I get the Baker Mayfield thing. He played well this year. You give the offensive coordinator credit, but I thought their offense was a little bit overrated going into the playoffs. I mean, people were talking about them like they were scoring 30 points a game. There's a lot of games where they struggled to score. When they played the Lions the first time, when they played the Panthers at the end of the year, I don't know. I didn't look at that offense and it didn't wow me. I just thought, boy, they got Mike Evans and Godwin. They do have two number one type receivers there. Mike Evans, probably a future Hall of Famer. And Baker Mayfield made plays in the pocket. But I never watched the offense and thought to myself, man, who's this guy running this? He really deserves a coaching job.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly. And I mean, I just don't. Sometimes I think teams try to outsmart themselves. And I think that's exactly what happened here. And if you don't know what we're talking about, Dave Canales, the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I will give him this. Baker Mayfield was as close to incredible for Baker Mayfield as he could have been this year. I don't think Baker Mayfield could have played any better. I don't think he played it any better in any season than in which he was in Cleveland. So he certainly was rejuvenated. Is that enough to go and turn Bryce Young into the quarterback you hope he'd be? Now, he's a young guy, maybe so, and that was a big part of it. But look, I will say this: is when you're comparing a guy like Dave Canales and a guy like Raheem Morris, at least Dave Canales is unproven and young, and that's what you're looking for. Now, Raheem Morris is still young, and I think he's an excellent defensive coordinator. I don't think anyone can question the fact that he's an excellent defensive coordinator, but I think the more and more you see these guys that get their shot, they don't really do that much better in the second chance.
Yeah, no.
Dan Quinn's going to be another one we're going to talk about soon.
Dan Quinn. Listen, I don't know what it takes to coach in the NFL. I just know it's really hard because a lot more people fail at it than are really good at it, right? Like Mike Tomlin. There's only a few Mike Tomlins and Andy Reids, and
there's only one Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, and the thing is that listen. Belichick's kind of a weird case because I think him in Cleveland, I think gets overblown. I thought he did a good job in Cleveland for what they had. He took them to the playoffs and everything. But the bottom line is he wasn't great in Cleveland. Then he came to New England, and listen, they have another poor year. We don't know if he comes back. So I'm not going to debate who's responsible, Brady or Belichick. I just know that they caught a break when Mo Lewis knocked out Drew Bledsoe, and then things went from there. But so my point is I don't know if Bill Belichick would have been good the second time without that break that they got. And listen, if that doesn't work out, he's going to go coach defense and be the number one defense in the NFL. There's no question about it.
Right, and I'm not saying that no one who gets a second chance it doesn't work. I mean, you can look, and I'm sure you could go find all kinds of coaches that have gone on and had a second chance and they worked. My point is, when you want to go back to Belichick, by the way, people always say whether it's Belichick or Brady. Well, Brady easily could have been replaced, even though he went and took over for Drew Bledsoe. People forget at the time Drew Bledsoe had the largest contract in NFL history, was making $10 million a year, which at that time, back then, 22, 23 years ago, was an inordinate amount of money. And this was a team that they thought could go to the Super Bowl. So Drew Bledsoe could have come back. And Bill Belichick said, no, we're sticking with Tom Brady.
Right.
And so that decision just alone, now Tom Brady went and did it for him. It's the same as Sean Payton going saying, I want Drew Brees. And if Nick Saban doesn't pick, if Nick Saban wants Drew Brees, had the chance, got Dante Culpepper instead, we could have been talking about a whole different history with the Saints. Right. So, but coaches identify these quarterbacks and people forget that. So, when it comes to Belichick. But I'm all for second chances. I just didn't see anything in Raheem Morris as a head coach that leads me to believe that he's that much different than Dennis Allen. I really don't. We'll find out soon enough. Speaking of Dennis Allen, we're running long, but we had so much stuff going on. We got to touch on this before we move on to the NFC, AFC championship games. Saints continuing to search for a new offensive coordinator. They had basically 9 candidates cut down to 7 now. This is kind of where this team is. One of these guys may get a job somewhere else. Zach Robinson has been rumored elsewhere. I think Clint Kubiak is going to get a chance to be elsewhere as well. So it's coming down to the wire, and the Saints are trying to find an OC. Do we think they'll have one by this time when we talk next Thursday?
Maybe. I could see that. The list is interesting. Zach Robinson's a guy I liked him in college as a quarterback. He was always a smart guy. I think he would be a good choice. The thing for me, Jim, is this. I think an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are a little bit different because the offensive coordinator has to fit with your quarterback. The quarterback is so important on offense. And you take a guy like, Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury knows offense. Nobody's going to debate that. But is he going to be the right fit for every team? And I think that's the most important thing for me. Bring in a guy who's going to get the most out of Derek Carr in this offense. That's whoever that is. That's got to be it.
Yeah. I agree with you. I still say, and I did a post about a week ago. I need to update it really, but I still say Ronald Curry is the favorite. I know people don't want to hear that, and I'm not saying he should be the favorite. I'm just saying the way this team works, they like to hire from within, promote from within, and I think that there's an excellent chance that that Ronald Curry is going to get this job, and I certainly would consider him the favorite. So they're going to bring some of these guys in. Maybe you don't pass on a guy like Clint Kubiak if you get a chance to hire him. To me, that would kind of be the only other real fit to come in here. I just don't think John Gruden works. No. I think they'll continue to use him as a consultant and have him on the side. I just don't think the Saints want to rattle that cage right now. We'll find out soon enough. But again, I would put them in the order. I think they're on their wish list. Number one is Clint Kubiak. I don't think they'll get him. And I think Ronald Curry will end up being the hire. That's my favorite, and that's why I think that we'll go with that. We'll find out soon enough. All right, let's get to the NFC AFC championship games, and we've had some line movements here very recently, as early as today. The Kansas City Baltimore line opened at -3 a couple days ago, and it is very slowly and steadily moved towards the Ravens, which tells us that the money and the tickets, everything's pretty much going towards Ravens. You've been doing this for a long time, Thomas. To see a line get off of that 3 and get to 3.5, and now at a solid 4, it's at 4, which means it's not coming back. I was wrong about this when I was shocked. I got to say, I thought this spread was going to end at -3. That's why I got it in a teaser earlier in the week, because I never thought it was coming back. I got it at 3.5 to 9.5, but I got to tell you, the fact that it's at 4 and at -110 4 tells me a whole lot.
Yeah, and listen, I jumped on the Ravens right away at -3. I just like them in this game, and I don't. When we get to 3 games left, I don't think it's as important who the sharps and the squares are.
I agree.
If it's week 3 in the NFL and you tell me the sharps like a side in Atlanta, Tampa Bay, that means more to me than right now. But the bottom line is, and the sharps were on the Bucks last week, and that didn't work out. But the pro bettors are on the Ravens heavy in this game, heavy.
Right.
So I just happen to be. Listen, sometimes I'm on the side of the Joes, but you can tell I agree with you. I thought this was going to close at 3. I bet it at 3. I knew it went up quick at 3.5. I thought it was going to come back down. So it's always fascinating to see how people are viewing games here. And, I get the reason. On paper, the Ravens have been the better team all season, right? Listen, the Chiefs have experience. They have Patrick Mahomes. They certainly have a shot in this game. But the Chiefs are the Ravens on paper, look, any metric you want to use, are the better team on the field. They're playing at home. So I understand why the pros are on it. I'll be interested to see this weekend when the casuals come in to see where the money goes.
Just from what I hear around, I got to say, I think it's pretty split. I'm surprised, actually. I thought more people would be on Kansas City. And especially I'm very surprised that the sharps are on Baltimore. I get that like you say, over the course of the season, that Baltimore's been the better team. They earned the number 1 seed. They were the best team in the AFC throughout the regular season. I don't think anyone doubts that whatsoever. But I'll just go let my cat out of the bag. I said this last week with Gabe, and I'll say it again. I'm just not betting against God in the playoffs. I'm just not. To give me 4 points and Patrick Mahomes in a game that means the Super Bowl, I'm not saying I'm running out there to bet on the money line, although I kind of do think Kansas City's going to find a way to win. But I do think it's going to be close one way or the other. And you're telling me you're going to give me 4? Lamar Jackson still, besides beating Houston, hasn't done a whole lot in the playoffs. Still, I mean, I get he played well last week, but didn't play that well in the first half. They had to make a lot of big-time changes. They played much better in the second half, and I think they just got to a Houston team that kind of was in over their heads a little bit. They're not. No one's going to be in over their heads this week, and I just think that Andy Reid. Look, John Harbaugh deserves a lot of credit for what he's been able to do with his Ravens team. And Lamar Jackson probably has his best team since he's been there. I'm just not betting against Mahomes in the playoffs. I just can't.
Yeah, here's my reasons for liking the Ravens. I got twofold. One, what you said is true. They started off slowly. I think they were tight. I think that not winning in the playoffs, I think you get in there. I don't care what anybody says, you're kind of tight. Yeah. I think now that monkey's off their back, the Ravens are the best when they're playing loose as a goose. You know what I mean? And I think you see that this week. The other reason, here's my main reason, though. Everyone's going to talk about the quarterbacks. In my opinion, this Ravens defense is what wins the game. They have speed all over the place. They have Kyle Hamilton who can help negate Kelsey a little bit. That's where I like the Ravens. I know that's everyone wants to talk about Lamar and Kelsey, but that's what I've been most. I wasn't a believer in the Ravens for the first half of the season. I thought they were a little fraudulent. What changed my mind is just that speed at all 3 levels of the defense. And to me, that's what decides the game on Sunday.
I will tell you one thing that kind of had me backing off of Kansas City. I'm definitely not as gung-ho as I was on them before, and I'm nowhere near as gung-ho about Kansas City as I was against Buffalo. Look, I know the Bills Mafia was sure that this was their year. I was just as sure the other way. There was no way Mahomes was losing to the Bills Mafia team. Now, here's the reason why. I'll give you reasons to back Baltimore because, again, my analysis goes to simply I'm just not betting against Mahomes. I think you'd see, in my opinion, again, do whatever you want. It's your money, your bets, you do what you want. But my opinion is you either bet the Chiefs or leave this game alone, and because of Mahomes. But the reasons to bet Baltimore are pretty simple. First off, Baltimore's had an extra day of rest, and they didn't have to put out nearly the effort that Kansas City had to put out, which is a huge deal this time of year, in my opinion. Second of all, when you look at the Chiefs, they have 2 major injuries that not a lot of people are talking about. Yep. Joe Thuney is one of the best linemen in the NFL, not just for the Chiefs. So when you're talking about protecting Mahomes and keep him from trying to run around, that is a huge deal. And then Willie Gay on the other side is the spy of Lamar Jackson. Right now it's questionable. Thuney's not playing. Willie Gay is questionable, I think, as of right now. If he can't go, that is a major deal because he is the spy on Lamar Jackson. We already know Lamar Jackson's gonna run a ton on Sunday. I don't think anyone doubts that.
Right. No doubt about it.
That in our picks in just a minute. But if Willie Gay can't go, that is a huge deal. So that will I'll keep my eye on that injury as well as we go forward. And I'll tell you how I'm going to attack this game in just a minute. But, interesting, you look at the Super Bowl 58 odds, and I had to throw the MVP odds up there as well. Because I think if you like Baltimore to win the whole thing, obviously they're almost what now with San Francisco. I think this. I think if Baltimore gets to the Super Bowl and wins the title, I think unless barring something just super absurd, Lamar Jackson's going to win the MVP because it'd be his first Super Bowl games, first Super Bowl victory. So you're getting better odds. That's a big deal. 30 cents is a big deal, in my opinion, when you're talking about that. So that's the way that I would attack that. I'd be looking forward to get your opinion. But I also think it's interesting that if you like Kansas City, there's no difference between Kansas City and the odds on Patrick Mahomes, so you would never bet that.
Right. No, I agree. Lamar Jackson winning the MVP if they make the Super Bowl. But the Joe Thuney injury is huge. He's one of the top 2 or 3 guards in football. And as I said a couple of years ago, when the Chiefs entered the Super Bowl with offensive line injuries that nobody cares about, when you lose elite level offensive linemen, that's big. If you lose just a guy, you can replace him with another guy. But you're talking about an elite player, and I think that's a good point. They could be missing 2 big-time players in this game. And even if you think the game is relatively even, that could be the deciding factor. But I also agree, if you're feeling good about Baltimore, that Lamar at plus 220, the amount of things that would have to happen for him not to win the MVP in the Super Bowl, I mean, that's the bet right there.
Yeah, and look, just on a local level, if you want to talk about how important linemen are, I think you can take this down a step. How long did it take the Saints to adjust to not having Ryan Ramczyk most of the year? Now, he played a few games here and there, but it wasn't until well past the midway point of the year, Thomas, that the Saints had trouble without Ryan Ramczyk. And then on the other side, Pete came in and shored up a lot for all their problems with Trevor Penning. But then Pete got hurt, and when he was gone, they had more issues on that left side of the line, and that caused a problem for Derek Carr. So I think you can see where we're going with this. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is more mobile than Derek Carr. Patrick Mahomes does things that no one else can do. But it's still, you lose your best lineman and one of the best linemen in the league. It does make a difference. That being said, I'm still taking the 4 points. We'll get to, again, how I think to attack this game in just a minute in big bucks. All right, let's talk about the NFC title game. To me, I think it's way more clear-cut and way more easy. I just don't see, you can tell me if you think I'm wrong, I just don't see how San Francisco doesn't run Detroit out of Levi Stadium in the first half.
There's only one argument I'll make for the Lions. They like playing on the road as underdogs. It's kind of their mentality, right? They go on, they play with a certain attitude on the road. So if they can stay in this game early and Brock Purdy's struggling a little bit, then I think they have a path to keeping the game close. I think the Niners are winning the game for sure. I think it's the Niners' year to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC. It's been that way all season. And I don't think the Lions are the team to beat them. As much as I hate my Cowboys, that would have been the only team, I think, if they had gotten there in the championship, to the NFC championship game, that could have put pressure on Purdy, maybe made him a couple turnovers. But the Lions just don't have the secondary and the defense overall to stop this team, in my opinion. So for me, the recipe that Detroit needs would be to run the ball successfully, keep San Francisco's offense off the field, slog this game down. That's the recipe for Detroit to stay in this game.
Well, here are a couple things here. First off, I think the best value on this entire screen is Brock Purdy at plus 330 for Super Bowl MVP, because I think I know he's had a couple games here and there that weren't great, but both games that he played that were below par for him were in the rain. Beautiful weather this week.
He can't throw in the rain. He's got the Troy Aikman. We know that now. It's we have enough data to see that he does not like throwing the ball in the rain.
He really doesn't, and they made such a big deal about that glove last week.
Yep.
And he finally took it off, and it didn't do much better. He just can't throw in it. So I don't think I just think they win this week and go to Las Vegas, and it's not going to be raining in Las Vegas either. So I just think that Purdy is the best value at Super Bowl MVP at plus 330, because I expect him to have a fantastic game. Meanwhile, Jared Goff, what were his last two games on the road? Well, two of his last three games anyway. He got drilled in Chicago, lost 28-13 2 or 3 weeks before the end of the regular season. And then, if people remember, he went to Baltimore, I think the end of November, early December, and he got shellacked. In fact, I think it was the last game in November, because it was the week before the Lions came here to New Orleans, and he played a good first quarter. After that, he kind of disappeared. And so I just don't trust Goff. I know he's had a good run so far, but that was at home. And again, I've said this time and time again, these Lions remind me of the 2006 Saints, where they were great at home. They had that home crowd behind them. It's a feeling that, the Saints never had this. In 2006, they had never been in the NFC Championship game before. It's something they hadn't done. And I think it's the same thing going on in Detroit. And when you go on the road and you've had that home crowd behind you for the last couple of weeks, it's a different story when you go on the road. And I just don't think that Jared Goff is going to be up to the task. I think he's going to, I don't know, I don't want to say deer in the headlight look, but I think he's going to have problems in San Francisco. I think the Niners win this game by maybe as many as 20 points. We'll see whether I'm right or wrong, but I definitely think that's the lesser of the two games. I can't wait to see Chiefs-Ravens, how those two games attack. Back to that real quick. The two defensive coordinators. No one's talking about. Everyone's talking about Mahomes and Jackson. What about the two defensive coordinators in that AFC title game? That's going to be fun watching those team with two guys matching their chess pieces.
Yeah, and one thing that was surprising last week is the way the Chiefs got pushed around. I was
Yeah,
surprised by that. So that's something to look for at early on. Because listen, if the Ravens are running the ball like the Bills ran the ball, you change the
I
station.
agree.
They don't lose when they run the ball like that. So they got to be better up front, the Chiefs, because that was shocking the way the Bills were kind of pushing them around last week.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. That's going to be an interesting matchup. All right, let's bring in Spencer the Guru. Spence, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, Jim? Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with y'all on how I see these games playing out. Everyone's like, "Oh, the script." Well, I kind of
The
think that
script.
it's gonna live up to it, man. Ravens and Niners both in prime position at home. It's hard to argue against them. Obviously, anything's possible in the NFL, but to me, I just can't pick against these two teams.
Well, we'll find out what our big bucks are in just a minute. Let's show you the results. It was kind of a weird week. Weird in the fact that I had a really good week. That's weird enough as it is. But we had three, like, right on the cusp. We had a couple 2 and 2s. Gabe, who's had such a phenomenal month, he ends up being the turkey. He's out sick today, but it ends up being a turkey. But he's only minus 13 for the week. So as he said earlier in our group conversation, if I got to be the turkey going minus 13, that's not such a bad thing. And I think overall we have all been doing much better as of late. Gabe and I both in the green for the year. Let's see what we can do elsewhere. I'm going to show Gabe's picks and read them for him since he's not here. I think we're going to see a common theme somewhere very shortly. Teaser, Chiefs 10.5. When he gave it to me, it was just 9.5. 10.5 now. I'm sorry, that should be 10. That should be 10. That's a 6-point teaser, not a 6.5-point teaser. So anyway, that's Chiefs plus 10. Niners, Lions under 57.5. He's betting 24 to win 20 there. Patrick Mahomes passing touchdowns over 1.5. That line kind of moved up right after he sent it to me. A spread that actually went down a little bit, I believe. Lamar Jackson's rushing attempts over 10.5 attempts. That's somewhere else and someone else's big bucks that we're going to talk about in a little bit. $12 to win 10. And then another player prop, Brock Purdy, passing attempts over 29.5. That went up to minus 140 before we went on the show. It goes to what we say. I think Brock Purdy's going to throw a lot of more as well because the Detroit rushing defense is very good. Their passing defense, not so much. I think they're going to try to exploit Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and company there. We'll talk about that probably a little more as we go on. All right, Spencer the Guru, what you got?
All right, yeah, I got a teaser, 6.5-point teaser for. Well, that's actually, yeah, I'll just go with that one to start. Then the 6.5, the Chiefs plus 10.5, Niners minus 1. Feel good about this. I think the Niners find a way. I think Detroit could keep this thing fairly close, though. Like Thomas mentioned, Detroit's going to be fired up on the road, wanting to prove the doubters wrong. I think they'll keep it close for a while, but I think eventually the Niners find a way to get that thing done. They just have too much talent on both sides of the ball for me to see them losing this thing. So I'll take them to win by at least 2, and then the Chiefs plus 10.5. I think Baltimore is a better team here, but it's Patrick Mahomes. I really don't see him getting blown out. I don't think there's any way that he just goes outside like that. So I don't know if he'll be able to overcome that tough Baltimore defense, but if you're giving me 10.5 with a Mahomes team, I'll surely take it. And so my other, go ahead.
No, I think that I was going to say you're going to see a recurring theme of some of these bets. Let's just say I hope you do well this week.
For sure. Yeah. So my other teaser is a 6-point total teaser. I have the same as Gabe with the under on 49ers Lions. I think both teams try to establish it. I think they both have some pretty long sustained drives. I don't see this being a quick strike kind of game. Debo, even if he plays, probably going to be banged up. So I don't see the Niners being quite as explosive, and I don't see Jared Goff having a field day on the road against a ferocious 49ers defense. And then the Chiefs-Ravens over 38.5. I know the defense is really good, but I see Mahomes and Lamar combining for at least 40 points. I mean, I definitely see this being around a 23-20 game at the least. I don't see this being some ugly defensive struggle with that much star power on the field. So I'll take the over on that one. And I have a couple prop plays here for y'all. Player prop, Lamar Jackson, anytime touchdown scorer. And this has a lot to do with the spy, Willie Gay, being banged up. Even if he plays, he might not be himself. And we saw what Josh Allen did to the Chiefs last week. And Lamar, he's on a roll right now, running really well. I definitely think he finds the end zone. And I got David Montgomery under 43.5 rushing yards. 49ers have a great run defense. Plus Jahmyr Gibbs, as I mentioned on Fantasy Roundup on Tuesday, Jahmyr Gibbs has had the hot hand lately at running back for the Lions. So I don't see Montgomery having much success on the ground.
Tom?
Yeah, I talked about it. I bet 2 plays early. I bet the Ravens -3, and I bet Lamar Jackson over rushing yards. Now, I'll still give out the Ravens at -4. Lamar Jackson's rushing yards went up 8 yards. So I changed that a touch to his longest run over 16.5. Here's the thing. Listen, if he doesn't run in this game, then the Chiefs are going to win. That's it, because he hasn't run a ton this year, but the Super Bowl is on the line. And we saw last week with Mahomes and Allen, these guys in big games are going to run. So win or lose, I think Lamar Jackson runs the football in this game. Then I went over Patrick Mahomes' 0.5 interceptions. And the reason why is, listen, those linebackers are so fast for Baltimore. And you got Hamilton on. I think he's going to try to sneak one into Kelsey. And I think those linebackers are going to be there and they're going to take one from him. So I went over, give me 1 interception for Mahomes.
I also bet Lamar early in the week and knew it was going to change. Those things never. Those player props. I'm glad they gave that out early because you knew that wasn't going to stay like it was. So I'm with you on that. And as you see with my picks, I've done really well with when putting one really big bet out there. So I went with it again, and it's the same teaser that Spencer has. I agree with him wholeheartedly. Look, I'm not sure the Chiefs are going to win this game because of what I told you. If I have to bet one way or the other, spread-wise, I'm definitely taking the Chiefs. But if you're going to give me 10.5 with Mahomes, I don't see Mahomes not keeping this at least within 1 score. So you're going to give me 10.5 with the Chiefs and a 6.5-point teaser. I know you're laying a little bit more lumber, but I did that because I don't want to give more than a point when it comes to the 49ers. Even as sure as I am, anything can happen in weird games. You can get a backdoor touchdown. You can get a missed 2-point conversion when something's going awry. All sorts of things can happen. I don't want to do 1.5. I'll pay the extra 10 cents to bump this up, get the Chiefs to 10.5 and 1. And that is my big bet, 65 to win 50. I will say this, though. Another reason maybe you might want to look at the Ravens if you're just talking about money lines. The last time a 3 seed won in the championship round, it's been a long time. The 07 Colts, when they won the Super Bowl, was the last time that a 3 seed has advanced to the Super Bowl, much less won the Super Bowl. So that's going a long time. Now I'm with Spencer and I'm with Tom because I had Lamar Jackson. I bet it early on rushing yards over. When I got it, it was 61.5 rushing yards. I didn't like that, so I went with Spencer's rushing attempts because I also bet that early in the week, and that's also in my column over 10.5. That number went down to -120, 24 to win 20 there. And then total, Chiefs-Ravens. This is one I stole from a show that I listen to quite regularly. And I've been listening to this stat over and over again, and I never bet it. And finally I said, you know what? If he's going to keep being right, I'm going to keep betting it. A guy named Scott Seidenberg keeps betting this. All year long, the Chiefs in the second half have played to the under. That shouldn't be rushing yards. That should be points, by the way. The Chiefs have played to the under 16 out of 18 times in the second half. That is a second half bet, by the way. That's just I forgot to finish typing what I wanted to type. So under 21.5 in the second half is what that bet is supposed to be. Under 21.5 points, Chiefs, Ravens, under 21.5 points in the second half. 16 out of 18 times it happened again. Now, the Chiefs got lucky that Tyler Bass didn't make that field goal, or that bet would have been blown last week, but he didn't make it. The under hit again. And then Christian McCaffrey, as much as I liked him to go over, we talked about it. I think Detroit's rushing defense is pretty good. I think McCaffrey, most of the damage he's going to do this week, I think that they're going to try to get him out of the backfield. So if you want to bet a Christian McCaffrey over receptions prop or over receiving yards prop, and you like that better than betting his under rushing total, under 86.5, that's still a lot of yards. I think he may end up with 120, 130 yards of total offense, but I think you're going to get 50, 60, 70 yards of it through the air. So that's what we got there. We've been doing pretty well. Let's see how we can do again. And we're going to get to our final thoughts as we go off. A long show today. Again, the breaking news, in case you missed it earlier, the Falcons are going to hire Raheem Morris as their next coach. Final thoughts, Spencer the Guru.
All right. Yeah, the Kayshon Boutte thing was really surprising as far as just the sheer amount of bets he made. But as far as him being caught up in this kind of stuff, like not really that surprising to me, because I feel like with this NIL money, man, it's like, I mean, some players, it can be a good thing. They can use it to, grow their brand and all that. I understand the pros of it, but this is an example of the cons of it. I feel like someone that, was a great athlete in high school, had everything going, and then essentially throws it away with this. I mean, he was already a fringe NFL player, so he's probably won't be on the field again unless he can have a big comeback reclamation story. So we'll see what happens there. But at least he didn't pull this stuff. They had this fantasy football playoff tournament through, I forgot the name of the deal, but it was $150,000 on the line. And one of the employees was caught switching out players in people's lineups. I think it was like his friends or something that were in it, switching out players that the game had already started, and dude had scored a touchdown. I think it was Aaron Jones. They had switched out Aaron Jones, or switched into Aaron Jones for Tony Pollard, because Aaron Jones had scored a touchdown in the Cowboys-Packers wild card game. Just so sick, man. It's like, come on. It's like, be literally cheating like that. It's safe to say that guy was fired, and let's hope we don't keep seeing that kind of stuff, because that's just, man, I love fantasy football. I hate seeing people cheat like that.
That guy had to be a Falcons fan, Tom. Go ahead with your final thought.
Yeah, it's just one thing to keep an eye on here. And listen, I'm not going to cry. If the Ravens don't win, I'm not going to cry. I've lost bets before. But the officiating crew in that game, first of all, it's the worst crew in the NFL by a mile.
Sean Smith.
Yeah, they favor the road team heavily, which is, the heavily. Okay, now, if it turns out that the officials have an impact in this game, and it's the perception that the NFL wants Taylor Swift and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, it's just a bad look. So I hope to God, whether I win my bet or lose it, that these officials don't have a big part in that game, because it's a bad look for football if the perception is they want Taylor Swift and the Swifties watching the Super Bowl.
I thought it was the opposite. I wrote in my column, I've heard all this blasphemous BS that they created the logo purple and red,
right,
because they were going to make it Ravens and 49ers all the way. I'm like, well, why not Chiefs and Vikings? Why not Cardinals and Ravens?
And I don't think I'm just saying, I hope that's not what we're talking about. I love football. I love sports. I don't want to be talking about that the league fixed the game to get Taylor Swift. I just hope we don't have to worry about that at all. Teams go out, better team wins, move on.
By the way, it is Sean Smith's third conference championship game, by the way, and I don't remember hearing anything bad about him in the past doing a playoff game, but I never heard bad about the crew that had the no call back in the day.
And they're in the Super Bowl. Your boys are doing the Super Bowl. Saints fans must be thrilled.
That is absolutely insane. That's a whole. We'll talk about that That'll probably be my closing thought for the Super Bowl week. And hopefully somebody will get screwed in that one, as long as it's not what I bet on. All right, my final thought of the day is, look, we're going to be talking more about Raheem Morris on tomorrow's Datitude podcast, tomorrow at 10 a.m. on all these same channels. And then afterwards, when I add my monologue, I'll probably be talking about a little bit about Saints and offensive coordinator and where they're going. Larry Holder will be on the show, as he is every Friday during football season. Again, talking about Raheem Morris, probably talking a little bit about Kayshon Boutte, and talking about maybe some of the other hires around the NFL. We'll see if anything happens before then. That's all coming up tomorrow. But it's been a great show. I want to thank my crew here again. Gabe Henderson behind the scenes, Spencer the Guru, Tom Casale, the sports betting director here at bet.nola.com, and me, Jim Derry. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Everyone, have a great Thursday night, and enjoy the games, everyone.